Welcome to SNL 24. I'm Kgomotso Medupe. Currently, we are at the Results Operating Center in Midrand, where we are observing the results of the voting as they come. With me, I'm with Grant, a political analyst and also a data analyst. Mr. Grant, how are you?
Very well, thanks, Kgomotso.
How do you see everything panning out? Is it too soon to say which party is taking it?
Yes, at this stage, anything can happen still. There's still a long way to go, so everyone should not make any predictions or make any celebrations as yet. We know that we are going to already start to see some early signs of what we can expect going forward. But the way in which the counting works is that once a district is finished, it submits its results. So all of the smallest polling stations, the stations with the fewest number of people to count, are submitting first. So we really are waiting for a large number of the big voting districts, which will bring in a large number of votes. And it's those large voting districts that have the possibility of changing the way in which the results look once they come in. Usually, what we're seeing right now starts to consolidate at around about 20 or 30%. And really, at that stage, you start to see relatively consistent results. But because we're waiting for the big districts and we have very, very few of the big districts coming in yet, it's still too soon to make any strong predictions.
We see MK making an early lead in KZN and it also creating his presence in other provinces. How is that? How can you explain that as a new party that has just been established in December?
Yeah, it's a very strong performance for a brand new party, and I think the question now is, will they rival the performance of COPE? When COPE first arrived on the scene, they also made a very big splash. Different constituencies, different provinces, of course, but you know, both the MK and the COPE party broke away from and drew support from the African National Congress, and I think we're seeing a relatively similar number at this stage between what MK did or what seems to be doing now in 2024 and COPE did previously. So MK will be very happy, I think, with their early signs, with their early performance, especially outside of KwaZulu-Natal. What is very clear, even though we are very early on in the count, is that MK has completely turned the political power structure in KwaZulu-Natal upside down. We're going to have a very, very different look in KwaZulu-Natal, no matter what happens from here, come the results.
We see a lot of decline, especially in the top three political parties, the DA, ANC, and the EFF. Would you say that as the results are coming through, is it concerning that there is no, in those three numbers, there is no party that is coming up strong? Is it concerning for the people?
You know, I mean, there are now nearly 90 political parties on the ballot paper, so the choice is more than ever, and people are expressing their preference for one or the other choice. So you're seeing a lot of small amounts of votes eaten by the so-called smaller parties, and I think that speaks to the fact that none of the main political parties have managed to really inspire across the broad spectrum. You know, the ANC is now appears to be relying very heavily on rural support, so increasingly the ANC is becoming a party of the rural majority. The DA seems to be really consolidating its power in the Western and Northern Cape among a particular demographic as well, and so they're consolidating according to a certain identity. The EFF seems to have plateaued. It seems this is the first time that they will not be growing in the elections, and so have they reached their cap? There will be some concerns there in the EFF. So the three big parties do not seem to have successfully grown their appeal beyond their main supporter base, and I think that's what we're seeing is if you don't appeal across the supporter base, then you really do see over time you're going to start to see these declines.
Speaking on Western Cape, we see the PA coming in strong, even on the Northern Cape. Do you feel that there could be a collision, especially in the Western Cape? Would the DA lose power there?
As I said, we're still waiting to see the big voting districts in all provinces, and so the DA will not be giving up hope yet. At the moment, they're sitting at 49% with 13% of the voting districts counted. But it's going to be a very, very long few days for the DA. I think that they would have hoped to have had a much healthier majority in the Western Cape. They were certainly planning for one. And so for them to be sort of battling battling it out, trying to protect their votes against what has been a very strong performance by the Patriotic Alliance, not just in the Western Cape, but in other provinces too, they're certainly going to be worried about the extent to which they're going to be able to hold on to the Western Cape. And of course, as we know, any party that doesn't get 50% plus one votes, they got to look at coalitions. So we may see a coalition there as well.
And in the national state government, do we see the possibility of having a coalition?
I think because of the performance of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng, which are the two most significant provinces by votes, the ANC is doing very, very poorly. It's worst showing at the moment in Gauteng. And again, I always have to keep emphasizing we haven't seen the big districts, so we can't make any statements yet. But based on what we're seeing now, the ANC is going to lose a significant chunk of votes in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. That is going to be very bad news for the party. That increases the likelihood as we get towards 100% of the voting districts counted of a national coalition.
And can the decline be attributed to the presence of MK or all the small parties?
Well, I think in KwaZulu-Natal you have to attribute it to the popularity of MK. Certainly they have eaten significantly into the ANC's votes. They also appear to be eating into the EFF's votes as well in KwaZulu-Natal. So the MK has really made a big splash there. Not surprising given who their standard bearer is. But I think that in Gauteng the picture is more mixed. I think the Gauteng voters are not particularly leaning towards any one party. There's a big spread of parties. It's a very heavily contested province with all of the so-called smaller parties as well trying to do well. And so I think Gauteng is really a split province, and coalitions look like a thing of the future in Gauteng.
The Action SA, Rise Mzansi, they have really created a ground there. Thank you so much for your time. I'm sure we'll be speaking again sooner or later.
My pleasure. Thank you
Thank you very much.